What is going on, YouTube? Northeast Ohio Sports Cards here to talk some basketball today, and specifically Select, the darling of the hobby community. Before we get into it, YouTube stuff down below. Like, comment, sub, marker movers, links. You guys know the drill. I say it every video when I remember. Today's going to be a very good example of why I think if you're taking this seriously, that you do need some type of data tool, because it makes trends like this much easier to see. As we all know, Select has been gaining a lot of popularity lately, the last few months, due to its lower population counts, slightly better looking cards in some people's opinion. That's a little bit more opinion, but it does have low pop counts. You know, you have Concourse, you have Premier, you have Courtside. Today, we're going to focus on mostly Premier and kind of touch on Concourse as well, and compare it to Prizm and Optic. So what I have noticed is when you dig into modern NBA, or ultra modern NBA, if you will, I think Select Premier is the new go-to base rookie card that you want, especially if it's someone that you're looking to hold slightly longer term, like maybe season into season and not just quick flip. But I really do think it is the card that you want. I think you want it more than base Prizm. I think the pop counts on base Prizm are finally catching up to it, and people are gravitating more and more since the beginning of the year to lower population count cards. I have pulled up, I think it's 5 players, maybe 6, and they all follow the identical trend, and it's multiple years worth of players. So I did a year just to kind of show you what's going on here. And we're going to start with Tatum, and I have pulled up base Optic, base Prizm, base Select Concourse, and base Premier for all the players. It's the same 4 cards. So with Tatum, as you can see, you know, normal rise and fall. The purple line is Prizm. It is the leader in the clubhouse by a mile. Going all the way back to last April, it cruises right along, so on and so forth. The green line is Concourse. The orange line is Premier, and the blue line is Optic. So prior to December, these lines you can see are just basically all jumped together. You know, one kind of jumps above the other, then the other passes it up, and then the other passes it up. But it's essentially one big old line. And then right around early December, these things start splitting apart. You could see Select begin to pull away from Optic, the blue line. The further we move along into this year, the further they get apart. And the other thing that you notice is, look at Select Premier, the orange line. It has caught and surpassed Prizm. Not necessarily every day, but it is right there with it. In fact, if we look at the ending averages here, Prizm's at 500, Select Premier is at 635. So even though the modern NBA market has been quote unquote down, we can see here that since the beginning of the year, Select Premier has pulled away from everything else and even caught Prizm. Let's look at, I'll go back 90 days, which will basically take us to the beginning of the year. So we can kind of look at the numbers here. Optic, the last 90 days, down 23%. Prizm, down 26%. Concourse, up 25%. Premier, up 35%. And once again, you can see how Premier has caught and passed up Prizm base for Tatum. All right, you say, well, maybe that's just exclusive to Tatum. And Tatum's an interesting one because he's from the 17 class, and the population counts are lower on 17. There's only 4,800 of these in a PSA 10 Prizm, which sounds like a lot, but it is nothing compared to when we look at Luka and Zion here in a minute. But look at his Optic at 3,000, and then when you go down here and look at Select, Concourse at 700, Premier at 190. There's only 190 of these. That's it. Doesn't take much to move price on a low pop count card like that. By the way, if you drink every time I say pop count, not going to be a good show for you. Let's look at Luka. What do we see? Basically the exact same thing. In this case, Luka's optic had a little bit more popularity for a longer period of time, but you essentially see the same pattern. The blue line, the green line, and the orange line are all clumped together. And then as we move into December, they begin to split apart. Concourse and Premier pull away from Optic. And an additional thing happens of Premier pulling away from Concourse. And you see the same thing here to even a bigger degree. Premier has actually passed Prizm and passed it by a lot. Last sale on a Premier was $14.50. Last sale on a Prizm was $12.77. We mentioned population count on Tatum. Luka's is 16,000 of his base Prizm. Yeah, I said that right. 16,000. His optic's only 3,600. Concourse is only 1,300. And Premier is only 528. So as we saw with Luka, Premier has eclipsed and split away from Optic and closed the gap on Prizm. Let's look at Trae Young, his running mate. Look familiar? Prizm, purple line up top. Optic, Select, all grouped together for a long time. Come around to the beginning of the year, and what do we see? Come mid-December-ish, Select Premier shoots way up. Concourse shoots up. And Optic actually goes down, and then Prizm goes down. They all kind of go down, but before the Trae Young pullback, look at how close those lines get together. And now, where we sit today, Select Premier is almost right with Prizm. There's a little bit of a wider gap here, but not as much as it used to be. His Optic's 183, his Prizm's 420, his Concourse is 296, and his Premier is 330 due to the last sale being down a little bit there, kind of pulling the average down. But prior to that, the last one had gone. So prior to that one, the last one had actually sold for 410. So, is 330. I mean, it's a real number, obviously, but they were just recently selling for as much as $400. So you're still seeing that Select Premier catch way up to Prizm compared to where it used to be. Let's move into 2019. Once again, the same exact thing. Look at the orange line. The purple line's Prizm, and then the same three lines that we've been talking about, and follow that along. And as we get to the last few months, you see the exact same thing happen. Premier takes off and closes the gap with Prizm. Now, in this case, it's not as tight. Jaws base Prizm's going for 376. His Premier's going for 310, Concourse 200, and Optic 160. But that Premier at 310 compared to 376 is a lot bigger difference than it used to be. 3 months ago, these were all basically priced at the same thing. And once again, look at the price change differences. Now, this is over a 1-year period, so it gets a little weird. But from when these cards basically first hit market movers, Optic's down 11%, Prizm's up 30%, Select Concourse is up 10%, but Premier is up 50%. How about Zion? Same exact thing. Look at the three lines grouped together earlier in the year, and then now look towards the far right of the chart over here. Look at the purple line compared to the orange line, compared to the green line, compared to the blue line. And then we come down here. Once again, same thing. His Optic down 31%, his Prizm up 35%, his Concourse up 20%, but the Premier up 151%. When you're talking about population counts, his base Prizm has 16K. His Premier only has 529. Concourse is 2,000, and his Optic is 6,000. So you could draw a couple things from this. One, I think Select Premier could be the new top base card that you want. Obviously, and then one thing that we have not talked about is courtsides. Courtsides already get a ton of respect because they are ridiculously short print. Um, a Luca courtside is, I think a Luca base courtside is like 12 or 15K in a PSA 10. So that's getting its love. Premier never did. And it appears that it now is. And I think if these trend lines continue, which it obviously appears that they are, Premier is going to be the base card that you want. If you're chasing base cards, it feels like the one to go after. There's 16,000 Zions out there in a Prizm base. Is that really the one you want to be quote unquote investing in? And I think that's part of why we're seeing the modern NBA market down. Is the modern NBA market down across the board, or is Prizm down? If we ran these back 90 days like we did on the other one, it would be the same thing where, Prizm's trending down, but Select's not. So is it as simple as, move stuff into Select as much as possible? The other thing to consider too is that Select is coming to retail this year. Football for sure, and we're pretty sure it's coming for basketball as well. Is that going to screw up pop counts going forward? Possibly, but it could also make Select more popular going backwards. If that lifts up Select as a brand as a whole, are people going to go back and be like, hey, man, I need to go get some Select Zion, some Select Luka, Trey, Tatum, Mitchell, whatever? And is that going to increase the value of the older stuff? Even if the population counts on modern Select go higher. I don't think they're going to go astronomically higher, but they're probably going to be more around the Optic range. The other takeaway I have from this is, in my opinion, Optic is extremely undervalued base for a base card. Select is now the clear number 2 brand behind Prizm, and at least Select, Premier, and Courtside now 2 out of the 3 base cards. Courtside has already always sold, way more than Prizm base when it comes to base cards. And now Premier is basically right there with Select almost. In some cases, it's well over. In some cases, it's nipping at its heels. If the Premier passes up Prizm base, when 2 out of your 3 base cards are outselling Prizm, does that mean there's a new king in town? Probably not quite yet, but when it comes to base cards, I think that's the way I want to go. Now, let's take this a step further. And an interesting thing here is I went ahead and looked at silvers. I wanted to know, does this same logic apply to silvers, where we have seen big trends in Premier and Concourse trending well above Optic and, closing the gap to passing Prizm in some cases? So this is Tatum, same chart. Optic Hollow, Silver Prizm, Select Concourse, Select Premier. Purple, once again, is Prizm. Blue is Optic. Green is Concourse. Orange is Premier. This one, we do not see as much separation. Now, the Tatum one took off a little bit here in February and March to close the gap. But in general, these have stayed closer together. Let's look at some of the other players. Luka, when it comes to Optic, the Hollow actually is the king, and the Select is lagging quite a bit behind. And Silver Prizm's actually pulled away from Optic. Optic used to be a lot closer to Silver Prizm compared to what it is now. And when you're talking about population counts on these, this is where it gets a little interesting. Luka's base Prizm or Silver Prizm is 2,000. His Optic Hollow is 261. And this is all PSA 10. His Select Concourse is 174, and his Select Premier is 171. So pop count wise, they're very similar. And the Optic is actually a little bit higher. But the Optic Hollow is gaining more respect than the Select Silvers are. But when you go to the base cards, that's not the case. Now, Optic Hollows are a pretty tough grade, but Select Silvers aren't no joke either. So there could be potential extra room in select silver. Select base are taking off. The silver is not following. If that pattern changes, then there could be some built-in gains or value, if you will, in the select silvers. Let's look at some other players. Same thing, Trae Young. The select is trending below optic hollow. So optic base does not get the love select does, but select optic hollows get more love than select silver. So it's inversed. How about Ja? Seeing a little bit of a trend shift here when we move into 2019. The select silver has passed up optic, but the concourse is still underneath it. And once again, as we move into 2019, what do the population counts look like? Select concourse 450, optic hollow 360, select premier 120, with prism at 1,000. So as we move into the more modern stuff, select gets a little bit more trendy. Let's look at Zion. Same thing. And it just happened recently, just like Jaws. Actually, Jaws happened a little bit sooner. But select silver premier just hopped over optic hollow, and they're actually basically the same. So there's a little bit more separation with Ja. And we see similar numbers here. Zion at 1,200, optic hollow, Zion silver prism at 1,200, optic hollow at just under 400, concourse at 340, and premier at 110. So there's only 110 of these things. In my opinion, especially 2019, select premiers seem to be very undervalued. Select premier silvers, very undervalued. If the base card is selling for the same as prism base, then why aren't the silvers? And it isn't like this just happened yesterday. We could flip back to these base charts. This trend started 3 months ago. So it's not like this is a 1 week trend. This goes all the way back to mid-December when these started to split, and it's every single card. And so it's not like, Jeff at SCI had a big select video in early December. Sure, that would have given it a little bit of a boost, but this trend has continued. So it's not like your classic, someone pumps something up, it shoots way up for a month or a week, and then and then the prices dip on it immediately because it wasn't real. This is 3 months worth of a trend where these continue to separate apart from each other on base, but it hasn't happened with silver yet. So I do believe there is some room there on the silver side, and I still think there's room on the base side. I truly believe if you want one of these players, you should be looking at select premier, especially on base stuff. I think select premier base is going to be the one people want going forward. That's all I got for you guys today. YouTube stuff down below. Like, comment, subscribe. Tomorrow, we're going to do a part 2 to this and look at football. So today we focused on the basketball market. Tomorrow, we're going to look at football. And there are some interesting buying opportunities on the football side of things. So we'll talk about that in tomorrow's video. Today, basketball. Tomorrow, football. Catch you guys then. Peace.